Bear with me as a fairly inexperienced webinar host. I can assure you that all of our panelists and presenters are well experienced and have a rich variety of information to share with you today. You may have heard that Sacramento has been setting records here recently. We had 212 days without measurable rain from March to October of this year. And 8 days later, we broke an all-time record for one-day rainfall in the Sacramento area. We had over 5 inches of rainfall in Sacramento on Sunday. So we've broken 2 world records here in Sacramento, and today I'm hoping to break the 3rd, which will be most information-packed single-family symposium in the Western Hemisphere. So this is a big order, but I think we're up to the job. Let me tell you just a little bit about CAL-ALHFA. We were founded in 1989, primarily as issuers of mortgage revenue bonds, building a lot of high-rise senior apartments that you see dotting around our major cities. We changed our focus as financing tools changed. Of course, when the tax credit program came in, we became avid first users of the credit program, and we also participate in the other state programs that are offered to folks who are interested in developing affordable housing. CAL-ALHFA is unique in that we have a very robust single family program, which is a topic that we're going to be discussing today. We also do a lot of multifamily activity, and our focus is unique. Our focus is to provide input and leadership from local agency point of view. There's always a lot of tension between state mandates and local control. CAL-ALHFA likes to think that we're very nicely balanced on the knife edge between those 2 points of view. And we do provide local comment on impact that state regulation and federal regulation have on the implementation of affordable housing programs at the local level. That's our unique point of view. And given that unique point of view, I'd certainly like to encourage all of you, particularly local agency folks who don't already belong to CAL-ALHFA, to do so. We have a membership form on our website, as well as program information and background materials for today's symposium. I'd like to thank the folks who are behind the scenes making all of this possible. We have Sherry Gaillard, SLG Designs, who's been with us for many years and is truly the brains behind the whole affair. We have Becky Jackson with Innovative Housing Opportunities. IHO is a board member of CAL-ALHFA, and their executive, Rochelle Mills, has been a spark plug in the development of affordable housing programs in these webinars since the beginning. So those 3 are the folks behind the curtain that have made all of this possible, and I cannot thank them enough. I also wanted to let you know that we have signed a contract for the 2022 CAL-ALHFA conference. It will be a 2-day affair, October 26th and October 27th at the Sacramento Downtown Holiday Inn, which is located right in what we call DOCO, where the Golden One Center is, and it's going to be a jumping affair. There's lots of activity going on in Sacramento during the holiday season, kicking off with Halloween. So you'll certainly be getting more information, but it's a go. We've signed the contract. We are happening October 26th and 27th in Sacramento at the Holiday Inn 2022. This is the first of at least 4 webinars that we are going to be doing in 2021-22. This one has an emphasis on single family programming. Tomorrow, we will have our annual meeting, which is a review of state programs and policy, kind of setting the table for what CAL-ALHFA wants to put on its legislative agenda. And then we're going to have a couple more webinars that are also devoted to single family development, minority ownership and wealth building, just a variety of topics that are of interest to single family customers as opposed to the larger multifamily customer base that we have. We're also contemplating doing an informational webinar about a new rental housing program that has been introduced by some joint powers authorities. There's pros and cons to this program. It's getting a lot of attention locally, and we feel that CAL-ALHFA has an opportunity to provide some nonpartisan information on the pros and cons of these rental programs for middle income households. That all said, I'd like to turn the presentation over to my friend and colleague, Wendy DeWitt. Wendy is the president of CAL-ALHFA, and she's also vice president for policy and preservation at the San Diego Housing Commission. Good morning, Wendy.
Good morning. Thanks, Mary Ellen. Yes, we do have quite information-packed morning or half a day. So for the most information-packed webinar in the Western Hemisphere, I'd like to give you a little bit of a preview to kind of set the scene of what we'll be doing this morning. Home ownership is valued for the stability it provides families, but as time goes by, it becomes harder and harder to achieve what is considered home ownership for the average household, much less the lower income households. So our first panel will introduce innovators in down payment assistance with new ways homeownership is being promoted in communities. Then next, we'll have a panel of experts to discuss building minority wealth through homeownership and the positive social and economic outcomes it produces. The second half of our morning will focus on advancing rural broadband, highlighting the need for access to high-speed broadband service, especially in these challenging days of working from home and educating our children from home. And then finally, another challenge to homeowners is catastrophic wildfires and the loss of electricity that goes with it. We'll learn about closed loop pump storage. So we have a lot to learn today from our panel of experts, but before we get started, I'd like to recognize and thank our most generous sponsors for the webinar today. Our title sponsor, Golden State Finance Authority, that has been with us for many years and also sits on our board. Thank you so much. I'd also like to thank our gold sponsors, the San Diego Housing Commission, R4 Capital, Federal Home Loan Bank of San Francisco, and Life Steps. Our silver sponsor is Innovative Housing Opportunities, and our bronze sponsors today are the California Housing Finance Agency, or CAL-ALHFA, Mogavero Architects, and a new sponsor for our webinar, Notification Maps. So without further delay, let's get started, and I'll turn it back to Mary Ellen.
All right, thank you. CAL-ALHFA really wouldn't be possible without the sponsorship and the support that is given to us by our sponsors and our members. So can't emphasize how grateful we are for that support of the good work that we do. Craig Ferguson is going to be moderating our first panel. Craig is an official with the Golden State Finance Authority, GSFA, which, as Wendy said, has been one of our longest lasting members. The GSFA has changed names 3 or 4 times, but they've always stayed loyal to their participation and membership in CAL-ALHFA. GSFA develops and administers programs that provide a source of financing for residential home purchases or refinances, commercial and residential energy efficient improvements, multifamily housing construction, and rehab projects in city and/or housing county infrastructure improvements. GSFA has distinguished itself as a leader in housing finance in California for over 2 decades, helping over 83,400 individuals and families purchase a home. GSFA has provided more than $634.4 million in down payment assistance and participated in financing of $1 billion in energy efficiency improvement projects. Obviously, GSFA and Craig are well equipped to conduct this next panel. Take it away, Craig.
Thank you, Mary Ellen. And thank you everyone for joining. It's appropriate kicking the first panel off with innovations in down payment assistance. As Mary Ellen said, Golden State Finance Authority has predominantly been focused on down payment assistance, and since '93, we've assisted over 84,000 families. The biggest hurdle to home ownership is down payment assistance, and this is not just a California problem, this is a national problem. A couple of months ago, the Wall Street Journal had an article talking about, first of all, the median price of a home on a national level is at $350,000, which doesn't seem too high for California, but it's the highest it's ever been on a national level. And in that same article said the biggest hurdle is down payment assistance. And there are many down payment assistance programs. You'll learn some about them today. And as many as there are, there's still not enough down payment assistance out there for the low to moderate income home buyer. So today we've got two speakers. We've got Joel Singer and Sean Moss. And I'll introduce Joel as the first panelist. Joel, for over 30 years, has been CEO of the California Association of Realtors, and he's overseeing the association's objectives, business development, strategic planning, legislative policies, and creating products so that the real estate professionals can succeed in today's changing real estate market. Joel, you've got a long list of accomplishments. I could probably take up the whole panel reading these, but to summarize a few, Joel is a visionary, leading CAR into the digital era by creating California Living Network in 1996. This is one of the first web-based real estate information services, and you can see where we've come so far since then with web-based real estate listings. He led the effort in defeating a bill which would have eliminated mortgage interest deduction for second homes and defeated a ballot measure that would have repealed the Costa-Hawkins Rental Housing Act. Singer joined CAR in 1978 and previously served as its chief economist and headed the association's public affairs department. I will leave it there and let Joel take it away, and then I'll introduce Sean after that. Thank you, Joel.
Thank you very much, Craig. It's a pleasure to be here. This conference is extremely important because California is at a decisive crossroad in terms of its ability to deal with housing, in particular home ownership housing. And I think it's important to understand just how serious the situation is, because for the first time, if nothing more dramatic than for the first time in 120 years, California is losing population. That loss of population, when we look at public opinion surveys, is tied directly into the cost of housing. There are other considerations, obviously, the COVID environment is one of them, certainly. But the fact of the matter is, we have been talking about housing crisis in California, home ownership crisis in California, quite frankly, for the last 40 years. And what was once the Achilles heel of the California economy has now become a very critical factor in terms of the state's growth, survival, and the quality of life for our citizens. Let me just say, without using slides, which is going to be very difficult, that the situation, as I said, in California has now reached a critical state. If you look at our housing situation at present from a homeownership standpoint, the market is characterized by an absolute shortage of listings. That shortage of listings is so problematic that prices have now reached a median price of $800,000. That median price is survivable in the sense that interest rates are exceedingly low. Our affordability figure are now at levels we have not seen since the Great Recession in terms of the scarcity of affordable housing. And as a result, even with interest rates low, we have the access situation that I talked about. The aspects of this that are most important to us deal with homeownership and wealth accumulation. The real net worth of Californians is clearly dependent on their role as either homeowners or renters. If you look at renters, per capita net worth is a mere fraction of what it is for homeowners. And the gap is even more significant when you look at it from a racial standpoint. So getting now to the situation here from the standpoint of the housing gap, you can see that Black homeownership in particular lags white homeownership by nearly 30%. That number is unchanged since the 1960s. And is depressingly low and needs to be rectified. I know that's going to be a topic that is discussed later in this session. And that situation obviously is going to be discussed at some length here. As I said earlier, tight supply has put upward pressure on the marketplace. We're at over $800,000 median price, which is unheard of. And the fact that it has been fueled by low interest rates. But the threat of higher interest rates are going to make the affordability situation even more adverse. Next slide. You can see over 3/4 of California households cannot afford to buy a median priced home. Obviously, if you have a home, this is not that relevant. But that number of 23% is back down to about 2008 levels. And what's particularly precarious is what happens if interest rates go up. Even a slight normalization of interest rates will reduce us to affordability levels never seen before in California. If interest rates rise to 5%, you're looking at single-digit affordability for homeownership in California. Again, we expect the 2022 numbers on out-migration to be even more dire than they were in 2021. And obviously, further reductions in affordability will accelerate that trend. Next slide. And it's not a localized problem. It is a problem everywhere. Even the most affordable counties lag well behind the US median of 50%, with a couple of exceptions. And the fact of the matter is everybody's vulnerable given what's occurred in terms of price increases and the lack of supply throughout California. The median income, the minimum income to buy has increased nearly $100,000 since 2012. That's an enormous increase given stagnant incomes. You can see how these numbers look when we compare 2012 to 2021 for California as a whole. It's almost been a tripling in the amount of income needed to purchase a home. Some market areas are clearly worse, but if you look at the most affordable of the large markets areas in California, the Inland Empire, you can see a huge increase again of 167%. Just over these past 7 years. And again, that's predicated on record low interest rates. Were interest rates higher, the situation would be even more dire. We've talked about this a lot, but you can see that mortgage payments have been mitigated, again, by record low interest rates. If you go to that 6.5 scenario of 2006, which is unlikely, we don't see that occurring in the next 3 to 5 years. You're talking about interest rates at 6%, affordability rates at 6%. And as I said earlier, this is a bigger issue for people of color. The affordability gap by race is very, very dramatic in every metropolitan area in the state of California. This too is disappointing. It is to a large degree engendered by income stagnation. But as you can see, it's a very significant income gap on the order of 25%, 20 to 25% for both Latinx and Black California households. Again, income equality is part of this gap without a question, and that means that specialized and targeted programs are very well merited. This is a big policy discussion we're having in Sacramento, and it's one that needs to occur. The gap could even be larger, as I said earlier, and the down payment gap is enormous as well. When we look at the down payment, and that's going to be one of the topics here we talk about aiding people and getting them into homes. It's no longer about interest rate reduction. It's about initial costs and down payments. Again, you can see the impact on home ownership, as we said earlier, by ethnicity. Down payment and personal finance are factors that delay many in buying. This is from a survey we run annually. People are looking for improvements, and there's no real buying urgency. But the fact of the matter is that this is one of the things that we also see in surveys when we ask people who've migrated out of California why they're leaving. Housing costs, both rental costs, but particularly access to homeownership, drives so much of that out migration. And first-time buyers in particular do not stack up well. No surprise here to repeat buyers. Lower incomes, obviously lower equity positions, far lower capability. These are people who access the market, these first-time buyers. They've been able to access the market, and they do so with a much higher percentage of FHA loans and a far lower down payment. Nearly half of the renters, and I think this is important, still view homeownership as extremely important. The desire for home ownership, particularly among more recent immigrants, continues to be extremely high as we run it over time. And the lack of aspirations being met has consequences. California has been the most innovative state. We've been the most technologically forward. We are losing potentially that generation because of their failure to access adequate housing. Again, over 1/3 of the renters have been savings for home, and that's significant. But if you look at the length of savings and the alternatives that are now confronting, there's reasons for concerns even in this positive number. 5 or more years of savings is a long time to wait to access a home. There are a lot of government legislative solutions. I know we're going to be talking about those. I think there's a lot of interest, in particular today. Later today, I'll be speaking with Senator Padilla, and obviously there is housing dollars that we have not seen for quite some time in the current discussion on the social benefits package, and those have been cut as a deal is trying to be worked out, and I suspect will be worked out, but preserving those dollars and in fact increasing them is a very, very important goal if we're going to meet the housing challenge that is currently here, let alone the one we're going to confront over the next several years. CAR has been very involved in this. I won't spend a lot of time on these things, but our Housing Affordability Fund has introduced a new closing grants program. We've allocated on a test basis the initial $1 million to this. Obviously, that's a very small start, but one we're proud of. Those people who will be eligible for this fund will be targeted first-time home buyers, underserved community, recipient income is less than 120% of median income. The intent is to occupy the homes for a minimum of 3 years, and using low down payment loans. And we certainly try to leave them with a little bit of savings after purchase, because from our perspective, there are things that occur when you buy a first-time home, in particular buying an existing home. So this program is part of something we've initiated over the last several years in our Housing Affordability Fund. If it works as well as it can, we look forward to working with many of you in terms of creating an even larger program on our end, and certainly encouraging others to create programs of a similar nature. Again, for those of you who are realtors, this is some of the information. If we can help you as you look at your mortgage financing options for your clients. And I think there's also one last challenge from our perspective, and that is that we think there is a lack of knowledge. Even those who are capable of entering homeownership in California are sometimes confused about the options that do exist. And I know this is one of the goals of everyone here, to better educate the consumer. And 63% of homeowners, of consumers rather, would start searching for a home if they knew they could qualify for a low down payment. So again, I think we've got a continual job here. We look forward to working with you. And again, thank you very much for allowing us to present.
Thank you, Joel. Those stats are pretty amazing, actually. And you touched on it at the end. The awareness factor is a huge aspect with down payment assistance. Home buyers still today think you've got to come up with 20%. A good portion of them. So that is definitely something that we've also been working on, is to get that awareness out here, which leads us to Down Payment Resource. Sean Moss, Senior Vice President of Down Payment Resource and Director of Operations and Customer Support at the firm. He's responsible for guiding product strategy, driving product development, and ensuring operational efficiency, while also collaborating with customers and partners to implement new solutions for affordable lending challenges. Thank you, Sean. Take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Craig, and Joel, thank you too. We see the same data, whether you're looking at NAR, MBA, Urban Institute, we're all seeing the same thing, that there's a huge lack of understanding of down payment requirements and the availability of solutions. So the last 14 years or so, we at Down Payment Resource have been trying to shed light on these programs. And one of the ways that we did that was 14 years ago to say, you know what? There are so many cities and counties and nonprofits, in addition to all the state and local housing finance agencies that offer these programs. Let's just put them in one place. Nobody had ever done it. Nobody had tackled it. Maybe somebody had thought of it. I don't know. But so we did that. And since then, we've partnered with organizations like the California Association of Realtors, like most recently, California Regional MLS, Barris MLS, Golden State Finance Authority as well, all to raise awareness of these programs among consumers. But we also know that a prospective homebuyer is still most likely to find out about these programs from either a realtor or a loan officer. So part of what we do at Down Payment Resource is expand awareness of these programs to the professionals that are going to eventually serve these homebuyers. So we integrate with MLSs into their listing data sets. We've partnered with CAR, and we thank Joel and the CAR team for that for years, to bring awareness of these programs to the real estate professionals. And just so we're all clear, just in California, and I don't know that anybody ever takes stock of this, but we all get focused on our own program. There are 350 homebuyer programs just in California. There are 200 agencies, over 200 housing agencies, whether you guys are municipal, nonprofit, CDFIs, housing finance authorities, that are providing these programs. 267 of those are down payment assistance programs, but we also monitor all of the affordable first mortgage options, the high LTV, low MI programs that could be coupled with DPAs and so forth, mortgage credit certificates, if and when they're around. And as far as listing data, we just recently launched a partnership with California Regional MLS. So 90,000 realtors are seeing all of your programs now, or maybe more than that, inside listing data. And over half of their inventory is eligible for programs like yours. So we are promoting all of these programs, and I actually want to show you how here in a moment, what this looks like on the street from the realtor or the home buyer's perspective. But CAL-ALHFA, Golden State Finance Authority, all the local HFAs, community development institutions. We monitor federal home loan bank funds, all of the local and state realtor associations, NeighborWorks, neighborhood housing services, you name it. We're monitoring all of their programs. And I'll put this up later here, but I want to actually show you what this looks like. So Joel mentioned briefly our partnership we have for many years. In fact, CAR was one of our earliest partners to kind of see the light and appreciate and understand what we were trying to do here. But that is to enable the home buyer, the realtor, or anybody, quite frankly, to come to CAR's site and to search for any and all down payment programs that are available anywhere in the state of California. So if I look in San Diego here just to start, we will layer in all of those opportunities from the state, and we'll link you to their program provider information so that professionals and consumers can find out who are the lenders that are going to help me. How do I take that homebuyer education class? How do I learn more about this program? How do I contact that agency? And then we've also now integrated with MLSs. And so I'll show you here what this looks like for California Regional MLS. So what we're doing here is looking at property information. As properties hit the market, as listings hit the market and become for sale, we are taking that listing data and looking at all of the DPA programs from you, from your peers, from your counterparts, and identifying which programs are available, if any, for a given property. And then we're showing that to the realtor, who can in turn show that to their consumer, to their prospective home buying client. And so when we talk about lack of awareness of down payment assistance programs or misunderstanding down payment requirements and all these things that keep a lot of otherwise eligible buyers on the sideline, renewing leases, watching prices rise, we'll see about rates, but inevitably at some point watching rates rise too, and watching the goal of homeownership further slip away. Well, we want to combat that by, at the very least, showing realtors and brokers that, hey, there is help out there, and there's a lot of it. So this is an example of what we're doing here. With CRMLS, we've integrated into their listing data any property eligible for down payment help will have this down payment icon. And this is for realtors, right? I'm playing realtor here for a moment. So as I scroll down this list of listings, I'm seeing which ones have any kind of down payment assistance available. And then if I click on that button, it tells me how many programs there are, how many dollars I might get from among those programs, which programs specifically are available. So state programs, I'll show you here. Let's look at Open Doors from Golden State. If I were a realtor and I wanted to have a conversation about this program, I might need to learn a little bit more, but I've got the basics at least. One, I know the program exists. I can get up to 7% of the total loan amount in down payment and closing cost help for that buyer. But if I need more, or if I need help, I can find their participating lenders, as we do for every other program provider, nonprofit, municipal, and so on and so forth. If I need to get my home buyer through the required home buyer education class, I can do that as well. I can figure out where to go. I can contact that program provider as a realtor and learn more. How do I partner up? How do we co-train? How can we sponsor some marketing events? But now as I scroll down through the programs here, we're going to see all manner of other options. And pardon the scrolling because there are so many programs in California, but Federal Home Loan Bank, we're tracking them. We're presenting those. Local nonprofits, housing agencies, San Diego Housing Commission, they have several options here. There's a program for police officers. There's a local realtor association. Now, they may not have money at the moment, but we will monitor that for all of these realtors as well. And then these realtors are sending listings to prospective home buyers. They're trying to show these buyers properties that are hitting the market as they become available and finding a path to home ownership. So part of our goal here is not just to shine a light on all of your home buyer assistance programs for the realtor, for the lender. We do a lot with lenders as well, but also to illuminate that path to home ownership for the consumer. So the consumer sees that there's down payment help out there, and they can also figure out what those programs are, talk to their realtor about them, and even account for any household information. So let's say they currently own a home. We want them to know that does not disqualify you from buying a home, of course, but it doesn't even disqualify you from getting down payment assistance. Or maybe they've got a low, a median, a high income. If they want to account for the income, we will account for the income limits of all of your programs. Maybe somebody in the house is a teacher and there's an additional program available. We can account for that. So all of this is, again, to show the consumer which programs are out there and give them information about how to take the next steps. Give them actionable information about what they can do to pursue that dream of home ownership, knowing now that there is help out there for them. And then we also provide realtors with additional tools, and I'll leave you with this, to show them or to let the realtors, in fact, show consumers that this help is out there, even if they're not looking at listings yet. So this is just one example of many of a realtor trying to shed light for consumers on the fact that there's help out there. You don't have to have 20% down. You can get down payment assistance and talk to me, essentially, is the message here from realtors about figuring out that path to home ownership. So I'll leave it at that, and Craig, pass it back to you.
Thank you, Sean. That was actually amazing. I know you guys have been working on this, but I had no idea how complex that is and how much information is available. And I appreciate it because, as I said, the awareness factor is lacking, and there are so many down payment assistance programs out there. I didn't know there's that many in California. That's absolutely amazing.